Leaders of the group of 7 major democracies agreed an outline deal on Thursday to provide $50 billion of loans for Ukraine using interest from Russian sovereign asset frozen from Moscow invaded its neighbor in 22. The political agreement was the centerpiece of the opening day in the southern Italy of an annual summit of G7 leaders attended for a second successive year of Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. He said he had signed a 10-year security accord with Japan and on the sidelines of the summit, and that Japan would provide Ukraine with $4.5 billion this year. Zelensky will also sign a new long-term security accord with US President Joe Biden. The G7 plan for Ukraine is based on a multi-year loan using profits from some $300 billion of impounded Russian funds. The technical details are to be finalized in the coming weeks, a G7 diplomatic source told. The sources said the additional funding would arrive in the end of this year. The United States had agreed to provide up to $50 billion itself, a senior US official said, but that amount could decline significantly as other countries announced their participation. Israeli tanks advanced deeper into the western area of Rafah amid one of the worst nights of the bombardment from air, ground and sea, forcing many families to flee their homes and tents under darkness, residents said Thursday. Residents said the Israeli forces thrust towards the Ai Mawasi area of Rafah near the beach, which is designated as a humanitarian area in all announcements and maps published by the Israeli army since it began its Rafah offensive in May. The Israeli military denied in a statement it had launched any strikes inside the Al-Mawasi humanitarian zone. Israeli said its assault aimed to wipe out Hamas' last intact combat units in Rafah, a city which had sheltered more than 1 million people before the latest advance began. Most of those people have now moved north towards Khan Yunis and this. The Israeli military said in a statement it was continuing intelligence-based targeted operations on Rafah. The National Testing Agency will conduct the National Eligibility cum Entrance Test for undergraduate medical studies for 1,500 candidates on June 23. As first reported on Wednesday, these candidates who were awarded grace marks due to the loss of exact exam time now have two options before them: either to accept the NEET UG score they were originally awarded or to reappear for the exam on June 23. The exam will be conducted in the same 6 cities but at different centers, a senior NT official told. After the exam on May 5, many candidates filed writ petitions before the High Court of Punjab and Haryana, Delhi and Chhattisgarh, alleging that they were not given enough time to complete. Exams started late in select centres, 2 in Chhattisgarh and 1 each in Meghalaya, Surat, Haryana's Bahadurgarh and Chandigarh. The Grievance Redressal Committee set up by the NTA to look into the allegations found merit in the students' grievances and suggested that affected candidates be compensated for the time lost. They advised that the same normalization formula be adopted which had been approved by the Supreme Court in relation to the CLAT examination in 18 when something similar had occurred. Based on this, the NT awarded grace marks to 1,500 students. 6 of them, however, ended up getting a perfect, due to this making them NEET UG All India toppers. After the results were announced, several students and their other stakeholders approached to the NT and the Supreme Court alleging that this was not fair way to deal with the situation. On June 8, the Ministry of Education and the NTA set up a high-powered committee to review the results of the 1,500 candidates in question. The HPC, which has asked to submit appropriate recommendations within 7 days, comprised the 4 senior experts, NTA Chairman Professor Pradeep Kumar Joshi, these. After holding meetings on June 10, 11 and 12, the panel suggested that the normalized scores of all these students be cancelled and withdrawn. It said that the impacted students should be informed of their actual scores through their registered email IDs and also be given the opportunity to appear for a re-examination. Those who do not wish to appear for the retest should be awarded their actual marks in the test conducted on May 5. Those who do appear for the retest would have their previous score invalidated. The NT accepted these suggestions. If being vegetarian means having diets loaded with dal, sabzi and phal, any animal origin products, most vegetarians in India would not make the cut. The latest official survey on household consumption expenditure shows that the average monthly per capita spending in rural India on vegetables, fresh and dry fruits and pulses was lower than on milk and milk products. The value of per capita consumption was similarly higher of milk than vegetables, fruits and pulses even in urban area. No less revealing is the fact that the per capita expenditure on dal, sabji and phal in vegetarian Rajasthan is below the national average. For those items or that the value of vegetable consumption by the average person in the E8 northeastern states is higher than not only the corresponding all India level but even that of Vaishnav Jain Gujarat. Simply put, being vegetarian in India is not being vegan. Indians, if at all, are lacto-vegetarian. Even those who call themselves vegetarian generally do not abstain from consuming milk and dairy products. In a monograph titled "The Key to Health," penned in 1942 while he was in Pune's Aga Khan Palace, Mahatma Gandhi made a distinction between vegetarian and flesh foods. The latter included fowl and fish. Milk for him was an animal food like sterile eggs and that are laid by hens. Milk is an animal product and cannot by any means be included in a strictly vegetarian diet. But experience has taught me that in order to keep perfectly fit, vegetarian diet must include milk and milk products such as curd, butter, ghee, etc. He wrote while hoping for the discovery of a vegetable substitute that would obviate the necessity of adding milk to a strict vegetarian diet. Preliminary investigations into the Kuwait fire incident, in which 45 Indians were killed, indicate glaring lapses. Around 24 gas cylinders on the ground floor of the 7th-story building, inflammable materials like paper, cardboard and plastic as partitions to separate the workers in the cramped room, locked doors to the rooftop that did not allow workers to escape to the rooftop, sources told. These details emerged as Indian embassy officials met the survivors and the Kuwaiti investigators began probing the fire incident that claimed 49 lives early Wednesday in an apartment building near Kuwait City. According to Kuwaiti authorities, 45 of the 49 dead have been identified as Indians and 3 from Philippines. One body is still to be identified. About 50 others were injured in the blaze in the building that housed 196 migrant workers in Mangfa, south of the Kuwait City. Minister of State Kirtivardhan Singh, accompanied by Adarsh Swaki, Indian ambassador to Kuwait, met some of the survivors and senior officials in the Kuwaiti government. Sources said the probable cause seems to be short circuit on the ground floor, which was aggravated by the 24 gas cylinders that were stored and kept there. The kitchen was located on the ground floor. In the wake of series of terror attacks in the Jammu region, including on a bus carrying pilgrims near Riyasi, Prime Minister Modi, who chaired a meeting Thursday to review the situation in J&K, directed the deployment of full spectrum of counter-terror capabilities. The Prime Minister, sources said, spoke to Union Home Minister Amit Shah and discussed counter-terror operations and the deployment of security forces. He also took stock of the security situation in the Union Territory from Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha. National Security Advisor Ajit Doval and other senior officials were present at the meeting, sources said. The Prime Minister, sources said, was given an overview of the security-related situation in J&K and was apprised of the counter-terror efforts being undertaken in the region. He was also briefed on efforts by the local administration to counter such incidents in future. A special court of 4 hearing case filed under the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences POSCO Act 2012 Thursday issued a non-bailable arrest warrant against former Karnataka Chief Minister and veteran BJP leader B.S. Yedurappa in a case of sexual harassment of a minor that was registered in Bengaluru on March 14 this year. The court issued the arrest warrant on a plea from the State Police Criminal Investigation Department, which is probing the case. Yedurappa 80 was summoned by the CID on June 12 as part of the investigation. He, however, sought time until June 17 for appearance, stating that he was in Delhi. Strengthening the country's security apparatus and achieving self-reliance in defense manufacturing are among the key aims for the next 5 years, said Defense Minister Rajnath Singh as he assumed charge for the second consecutive term on Thursday. Armed forces modernization and the welfare of soldiers, both serving and retired, will continue to be our main focus. He said while outlining his vision for the next 5 years, he said the armed forces are being equipped with state-of-the-art weapons and platforms. He said the objective will also be to increase defense exports in the time to come. Defense exports touched a record of 21,000 crore in the financial year 23-24. It was historic. Our target will be to export defense equipment worth over 50,000 crore by 28 to 29. Soon after assuming charge, Singh chaired a meeting on its 100-day action plan. Before he issues pertaining to Department of Ex-Servicemen Welfare were discussed, he urged officials to help implement the 100-day agenda, a statement that the Defense Minister said he will conduct regular meetings to fast-track the programs of ministry's flagship schemes and initiatives. Later this week, Rajnath is set to make his first official visit to the Eastern Naval Command in the Visakhapatnam, where he will speak with officers and sailors. Lieutenant General Upendra Dwivedi, the next Army Chief, is known to be a high-tech sway officer who has held a wide range of posts during a nearly 4-decade career, including that the Northern Army Commander, a position in which he oversaw talks with China over the military standoff. Currently serving as the Vice Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Dwivedi was appointed as Army Chief earlier this week. He will assume the role on June 30 when current Army Chief General Manoj Pandey retires. Lieutenant General Dwivedi is the senior-most officer in the Army at present. Army officers who know Lieutenant General Dwivedi well and have worked closely with him told that he will likely carry forward General Pandey's work of infusing new technology into the armed forces. He will be ensuring indication of maximum high-tech equipment in the army which have been brought through the army commander's special financial power, and officers said. These officers also said General Dwivedi is an avid reader and can present in-depth analysis of any security issue, considering the wide range of roles he has held during his career. Among other issues of his focus, he has always given primacy to the welfare of troops, said an officer who knows him closely. Before he took over the Vice Chief of Army Staff, General Dwivedi was the Northern Army Commander, during which he oversaw military talks with China in the thick of ongoing standoff between the countries, as well as counter-terrorism operations in J&K, particularly in the Jammu region, which had seen a spike in terror attacks. General Dwivedi was commissioned into the Infantry Jammu and Kashmir Rifles of the Army on December 15, 1984. During his service, he has served in a variety of command, staff, instructional and foreign appointments. His command appointments include Command A of Regiment 18 Jammu and Kashmir Rifles, Brigade 26 Sector Assam Rifles as Inspector General Assam Rifles, and 9 Corps. The senior officer is an alumnus of Sainik School, Rewa, National Defence College and US Army War College. He was conferred Distinguished Fellow in the coveted NDC equivalent course at USAWC. Okay. The BJP falling short of his predicted majority in the parliament was not the only surprise of the world's largest election. Despite widespread fears of an election cycle riddled with AI-generated misinformation campaigns, the deepfake apocalypse did not come to India. The access to cheap and fast synthetic media changed political campaigning in India, but for the most part, campaigns, candidates and party workers used AI for familiar political activities, including trolling the opposition and for targeted communications with their constituencies. Indian voters received and circulated a variety of synthetic media, voice clones, AI-generated videos, personalized audio messages in different Indian languages, automated calls to voters in a candidate's voice, and AI-generated songs and memes. Most of that content was authorized by political parties who spent an estimated $50 million. Young AI companies with their origin in serving the entertainment industry were quick and proficient to respond of this growing demand. Hyper-realistic AI-generated content in India was designed to appeal to emotions translated to regional languages, particularly to make parties accessible beyond the Hindi heartland. It leveraged relational bonds, especially with with the superstar politicians. Jayalalitha were among the first politicians who be with deepfake videos and voice clones posted by the political parties. A fellow party member circulated Arvind Kejriwal's message from behind bars through a convincing AI voice clone. Meanwhile, more than 50 million voters received calls from local representatives about the most concerning issues in the area, except the leader on the phone was an AI avatar. Political parties also used AI to bolster their ongoing meme wars with cheap fakes, propaganda images and AI parody videos. Yet the rural information ecosystem was not as sophisticated. The fact-checking unit Logically Facts reported that of their 224 fact checks between February and June, merely 4% covered AI-generated content. Facebook, Instagram and local content aggregators like Moz and Public featured old-fashioned cartoons, easily recognizable and low-tech face webs or doctored content, supercuts of local video footages or simply text on a colored backgrounds. The content largely mocked or expressed public frustration with the BJP's 400 Par slogan. In UP, a viral cartoon rebuked Modi's claim to God-like power with Lord Ram showing him the way out of the Ayodhya temple. Two trends stand out now: the race to get content to the voter faster and with more targeted relevance in a permissive regulatory environment will place ethics in the hands of small enterprises. AI startups like Polymath Solutions, known as the Indian Deepfaker, and Monium AI have committed to an ethical AI coalition manifesto pledging to protect data privacy and prevent the creation or distribution of harmful content. As the post-election market opens for new clients to leverage these AI tools, other startups may have not the same consideration for labeled or ethnically produced content or self-regulation. India's experiment with AI can also open a new chapter for AI in a participatory democracy. Consensual uses of AI in the context of renewed competition in the Lok Sabha can give a positive role in making democracy and governance more accessible, deliberative and representative. In the queue where I voted on May 25, there was a middle-aged middle-class man talking loud about, as he put it, the fantastic progress India had made in the field of digital technology-led service delivery. He was rapturous about the ways in which a very complex election process was being conducted with efficiency and indeed aplomb. The conversation was joined by a slightly older man who spoke of COVID-related vaccination, and now he had experienced a seamless process via Indian apps, whereas stranded in London for some time he had experienced incredible. There is a tradition in India of civil servants writing books. As a former civil servant, I value these for the contribution to the historical record and for helping improve the intellectual climate through post-mortem debate. D. Subbarao represents the best combination of intellectual and professional prowess and humility that the Indian civil services display. All his books are special. His last, just a mercenary notes from my life and career, is no exception. Three ingredients make up this well-established genre. First is the first-person view of the life and events. Here the author has to make difficult judgments on how much she would like to share, especially when she gets privileged access to confidential and inside information on account of the office she held. Every civil servant should carry some stories to her grave, and there has to be a sense of prosperity with the stories told. The second ingredient is a window into the deeper strategy at play, where generally cannot be fully articulated at the time, which it makes room for an omniscient reader watching the event unfold. Finally, the third ingredient is reflection within the passage of time. The best civil servants are able to look back and reflect dispassionately. They are able to discuss the problems of India through a frame larger than themselves or the organizations they serve. They show their regrets for the path not taken and the strategic thinking which failed to take root in the din and fury of execution and fighting. Every book by a civil servant can be weighed against these three ingredients. Many write multiple books. Each can have differing ratios of the three ingredients, and an author's collection represents the full picture of all of them. Autobiographies can be ego trips, a combination of truth and embellishment that makes the author look good. Subbarao has avoided falling into his trap and has been open and self-critical. I found the last chapter, his letter to his late mother, the best part of the book. This chapter, like the rest, shows us the Subbarao that we admire and love. The self-effacing, caring, shy and non-demonstrative person With 2 books published, Subbarao has amply engaged in the first 2 ingredients. As readers, we are now thirsty for the third ingredient of reflection of his journey of ideas with the benefit of